At 11:47 at night, the last street in the last coal town still glows under a weak amber light, and everything beyond it seems to fall straight into the dark. You can hear the wind before you can see anything. It moves through empty lots, past leaning porches, around old brick buildings that were built when coal was still considered the future and not the past. A dog barks somewhere behind a chain-link fence. A pickup truck rolls by slow and heavy, the kind of sound that makes you turn your head because it feels out of place in a town this quiet. And if you stand there long enough, you start to feel something strange. Not just that you're in a town after midnight, but that you're in a place where time itself has been narrowed down to a few remaining lights, a few remaining jobs, and a few remaining people holding the whole story together. This is the world's last coal town at night. Or at least, it feels like it. Because in places like this, coal isn't just an industry. It's memory. It's identity. It's the reason streets were laid out the way they were. The reason the houses look almost identical. The reason the town exists at all. And at night, when the shifts change and the mines keep running while the rest of the town goes silent, you can feel the tension between what this place was built for and what it has become. Tonight, I want to take you inside that world. Not the version you see in headlines, where coal is reduced to politics, economics, and arguments about the future. Not the version seen from far away, where it becomes a number on a report or a symbol in a larger debate. I mean the version lived by the people who are still here. The people who still clock in before dawn. The families who have watched neighbors leave, shops close, and schools shrink. The people who look at the dark mine entrance and don't see the end of an era. They see tomorrow's shift. And to understand what life is like here at night, you have to understand the town itself. Coal towns were built fast, often by mining companies that needed workers close to the seam. Houses went up in rows. Stores appeared. Churches followed. A school, a diner, a post office, maybe a bar with a flickering sign. The entire settlement often depended on one thing and one thing only: the mine. When the mine was busy, the town was busy. When the mine slowed, everything slowed with it. That makes night in a coal town different from night almost anywhere else. In many places, night means entertainment, noise, traffic, bright windows, and people moving between restaurants and homes and bars. But in a coal town, night can feel like a pause held by force. The town rests, but not fully. The mine may still be working. The loadout may still be rumbling. Men and women may still be changing shifts, riding buses into the darkness, carrying coffee in insulated mugs and packed lunches in metal lunchboxes that look like they've seen 100 winters. There's a particular sound coal towns make after dark. It's not loud, but it's layered. You hear the distant machinery first, then the occasional bang of a truck bed, then the low hum of an industrial site somewhere beyond the houses. If the wind is right, you may catch the smell too: diesel, dust, wet earth, and sometimes that faint metallic scent that seems to cling to coal country no matter how clean the night air gets. People who grew up here can tell the time by sound alone. They know the shift change by the line of taillights heading toward the mine road. They know when the day crew is coming off because the diner starts to fill with tired faces at the same hour every morning. They know when the whole town is sleeping because the porch lights go dark one by one, and the only movement left is the cat crossing the road, the flag on the courthouse fluttering in the wind, or a miner's truck idling outside a small house while he takes one more minute before going in. For outsiders, this stillness can feel like abandonment. For locals, it can feel like endurance. That's the first thing you notice when you spend a night here. The town may be shrinking, but it is not gone. It is still breathing, just more quietly. In one part of town, an old corner store stays open late because the third shift workers need cigarettes, coffee, snacks, or a place to stand under the fluorescent lights for a few minutes before heading back out into the dark. The cashier knows most customers by name. She knows who wants change in quarters, who buys energy drinks every night, who is late on rent, who just got laid off, and whose son started underground last month. She rings up a pack of gum and a meat pie with the same calm expression because in a town like this, small routines are how people keep their lives from unraveling. Nearby, a row of company houses sits nearly identical except for the details families have made their own. A pickup parked on one driveway, a basketball hoop mounted crooked over a garage, Christmas lights left up long after the season because no one can be bothered to take them down, and a porch swing with one missing chain that still gets used anyway. Inside those houses, Night has its own rhythm. Some families eat dinner late because a parent works the mine and gets home after dark. Some children fall asleep before their father comes through the door and wake briefly to the sound of a work boot in the hallway and the rattle of keys dropped into a bowl. A miner comes in with cold dust ground into the lines around his eyes, washes his hands carefully, and still somehow leaves black traces on the towel, the sink, and the edge of the counter. His wife has already reheated supper twice. The television is on low. Nobody speaks much because everyone is tired in the same deep, familiar way. That tiredness is part of the town's language. It shows up in the walk of people after midnight, the slow, deliberate step of someone who has spent 10 or 12 hours underground, where daylight never reaches and the body loses track of the sun. It shows up in the eyes of older men sitting on the bench outside the diner at night, not because they're waiting for anything, but because they've lived long enough to know that there's no reason to rush. It shows up in the young people too, especially the ones who wonder whether they'll still be here in 5 years, or whether they'll be the generation that finally leaves. Because that's the other thing hanging in the night air here, uncertainty. Coal towns are built on certainty. Coal was once the answer to almost everything. It powered factories, heated homes, fueled locomotives, and built cities. But the industry has changed dramatically, and the communities built around it have felt every shift. In the United States alone, coal production and coal employment have fallen sharply over recent decades as mines close, automation increases, and energy markets move toward natural gas, renewables, and other sources. Whatever one thinks about that transition, its human cost is visible in towns like this. When one mine closes, the effect isn't limited to miners. It reaches mechanics, truck drivers, school budgets, grocery stores, diners, and entire family trees. At night, those consequences become easier to hear than to say. A quiet main street can tell you more than a town meeting. A shuttered hardware store with dust on the windows. A barber shop with a sign in the window saying reduced hours. A former pharmacy now used as a storage room. A lot where a motel used to stand. These are not just empty buildings. They are markers of an economy that once moved with confidence and now moves with caution. And yet, even here, even now, life continues in stubborn, ordinary ways. A teenager rides his bike down the center of the street long after dark because there's nowhere else to go and nothing dangerous enough to stop him. A woman on the porch across from him is shelling beans into a bowl under a yellow bulb, listening to the radio through an open window. An old man comes out to smoke and stares toward the ridge line where the mine lights glow faintly like a second, artificial constellation. In that moment, the town feels suspended between two worlds, one shaped by labor, the other by memory. If you've never been in a coal town at night, you may imagine it as bleak. But that would miss the point. There is bleakness here, yes. You can't talk honestly about coal country without acknowledging the accidents, the black lung, the layoffs, the exhaustion, the risk. Mining has always carried danger, and the night makes that danger more present. When a shift starts at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m., families don't just say goodbye. They wait. They check the weather. They listen for the phone. They know that a siren or a late call from a supervisor can change everything. But there is also pride. And pride, in this town, is not loud. It's practical. It is the miner who makes sure his boots are cleaned before he brings them into the house. It is the grandmother who has lived through boom years and collapse and still keeps the same porch light burning. It is the volunteer fire crew that gathers at night in case the mine road needs clearing or there's an emergency out on the edge of town. It is the diner cook who knows exactly how to feed a man at 2 a.m. after 12 hours underground. It is the local church, still open on Wednesdays, still serving soup when a family is short on cash, still holding funerals when the town loses one of its own. At night, these acts matter more than they might in a city because the town is smaller and every gesture is louder. A single working street lamp becomes a landmark. A warm window becomes a promise. A pickup parked outside a house means somebody made it home. A late-night school bus carrying the children of shift workers becomes part of the town's rhythm. Even silence is collective here. Everyone hears the same owl, the same train in the distance, the same gust of wind rattling loose siding. And then there are the stories. Every coal town has them, and at night they come out easiest. There's the story of the old miner who worked so long underground that he could tell which seam he was in by the sound of the roof. The story of the woman who ran the boarding house in the company days and knew every worker's birthday by heart. The story of the cave-in that half the town still talks about in a lowered voice, even decades later. The story of the night a mine rescue team went in and everyone waited in the school gym until dawn. The story of the generation that once thought their children would all follow them underground, and then watched most of those children choose something else. These stories are not just nostalgia. They are how the town keeps itself legible. When industries disappear or shrink, people don't only lose income. They lose a shared explanation for their lives. In a coal town, the explanation was once simple. We are here because the mine is here. At night, when the lights are few and the roads are empty, that simplicity feels both comforting and painful. Comforting because it gives the place structure. Painful because structure alone doesn't guarantee a future. Still, the town goes on. On some nights, there's a basketball game at the school, and the whole place comes alive for 2 hours. Cars line the street. Parents spill out into the hallway. Kids in faded team hoodies run up and down the bleachers. For a while, the town sounds young again. Then the game ends, people drift back into the dark, and the silence returns with a kind of dignity. Not defeat, just another hour survived. That's what life here is often made of, survival measured in hours. If you walk the edge of town after midnight, you'll see where the built world ends and the mountain begins. Beyond the houses and utility poles and rusted chain-link fence, the dark rises up in layers. Somewhere behind that darkness is the mine, or what's left of it, or what's planned for it, or what people hope will replace it. But from the road, all you can really see is black against black, with a few lights blinking in the distance like someone trying to send a message across a long and difficult border. Sometimes, you can catch workers arriving for the night shift in groups of 2 or 3, their trucks lined up like a small convoy before they disappear behind the processing plant. They move with the quiet efficiency of people who know the routine by heart. Hard hats on the dashboard, thermoses in the cup holders, lunch pails on the seat. Nobody is wasted in conversation. There's a nod, a raised hand, a brief laugh at something only they would understand. Then they disappear into the industrial dark, where the night becomes even darker, lit by flood lamps and the occasional red blink of warning signals. And maybe that's the real feeling of the last coal town at night. Not that it is dead, not that it is thriving, but that it exists in the difficult middle place between ending and staying. The people here are not pretending coal will return to what it was. They know the world has changed. They see the statistics. They hear the debates. They watch the younger generation make choices no one made before. But they also know that before a place disappears, it first becomes invisible. And they are fighting, in all the ways that ordinary people fight, not to be forgotten. So when the final shift trucks roll through the dark and the porch lights go out one by one, the town does not feel empty. It feels inhabited by memory, by labor, by loyalty, and by the quiet determination of people who still call it home. Somewhere before dawn, a furnace will hum in a kitchen, a coffee pot will begin to drip, and a first truck will start down the road with its headlights cutting through the fog. The town will wake slowly, not all at once, but in pieces, a door opening, a radio turning on, a school bus stop, a miner's boots on the porch, a newspaper on a step, the smell of smoke rising from one chimney after another. By sunrise, the night will already feel like something that happened a long time ago, even though the people who lived through it are still carrying it in their shoulders and their hands. And that is what makes a night here so powerful. Because under that dim street light, in that silence broken by engines and footsteps and the far-off sound of industry, you are not just looking at a town that was built on coal. You are looking at a community deciding, one night at a time, what remains when the world moves on. If this story stayed with you, subscribe for more deep dive stories about the places, people, and lives hidden just beyond the edge of everyday attention. And if you've ever lived in a town like this, or know someone who has, share your experience in the comments. I'd love to hear what life at night felt like where you were.